Hey everybody, welcome to our weekly favorite call, the MakerDAO community call, hosted every Tuesday by yours truly. My name is David Utrobin. I work doing community development here at the Maker Foundation, and I get the pleasure of facilitating these calls. So if you're new, we usually do these calls. They've kind of evolved. The community call is not what it was in the early days. The community call now is very much kind of like a catch-up session for anybody who wants to just get filled in on what's been going on in the MakerDAO universe for the last week. I put together an agenda that I share in a public Google Doc that is just filled with links and info for you guys. So check it out if you'd like to follow along. Sometimes we have guests. I think that we might have a guest next week, but that is kind of up in the air for now. If you have any ideas for guests that you'd like to see on, we'd love to have them. Besides just catching people up on what's going on, we do enjoy having discussions. We enjoy diving deeper into certain topics if there's interest from the community. And so on and so forth. So if you guys are interested in expanding the format of this call, feel free to give me suggestions. You could reach me at pretty much anywhere: Twitter, Rocket Chat, the Maker forums. My handle is the same everywhere. It's David UTRO. So definitely reach out. Happy to open up my ears to that. Yeah, cool. So here, before we start, I just want to make sure the chat, I get everything covered. All right, cool. Yeah, Makerman is saying, yeah, he's here because he saw in the agenda that I mentioned his liquidation report that he came out with. So yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But all right, so I'm going to start off the call just with going through what's been going on in the governance side of the protocol, which is basically like 60% of the news is what happens in governance week to week at Maker. But this week is especially exciting because the MIPS framework was ratified last week, which means that right now we are launching basically into our first official governance cycle. So if you don't know what that means, it means that basically every month there's a certain schedule that Maker governance is following, where improvements to the proposals are going to be added in I think actually between the third and the sixth. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to name dates, but basically we're going to be going through this month-to-month cycle now with just the MIPS process. I should probably think a little bit better before I start trying to explain MIPS. I could probably better explain them if I followed my points. But here, let me kind of go in order so I'm not all over the place. Let me share my screen here so you guys could follow along. Also, feel free to jump in if you have a mic, if you have any questions, clarifications, anything like that. So TLDR, this week an executive vote passed on April 25th. It was passed by 59 voting addresses with I think it passed with something like 69,000 or 68,000 MKR, which is less than average, but surprisingly more than average more voting addresses than average, which I found interesting. But this executive vote basically did three things. It added WBTC as a collateral type. It lowered the USDC stability fee from 6% to 0%. And it officially ratified the 13 MIPS and 2 sub-proposals that were part of the governance paradigm, the whole MIP framework, like initial set of MIPS that were submitted by the foundation. And it wasn't the original set of MIPS that were submitted by the foundation. A few of them had gone through improvements as a result of community feedback. So super excited to see that. And of course, like, these aren't all set in stone permanently. The MIPS process has built into it a way to to remove things, to add things, to change things, and it happens on this monthly cycle, as I mentioned. But yeah, that's the short of the executive vote that passed. I'm also going to give kind of a few updates on some major threads that we've been following. So SCD shutdown, there is a scheduled spell. Executive vote was passed on April 23rd to do this, but the spell is scheduled to shut down SCD 3 weeks after this executive vote, which actually is 1 week from today. So on May 12th, or is that 1 week from today? Yeah, it is. It's exactly 1 week from today. Ooh, so next week's community call is going to be an interesting one, because at the very beginning of it, 16 UTC, I think, is the same as the call, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, yeah. So there was a 3-week delay for the final shutdown. So there's a week left, and so that's exciting. If I know that the migration contract was completely drained, so at the moment, if you're a Psi holder or a CDP holder, the only way that you can either close your position or migrate is to manually source Psi and close out your position by paying back your CDP, or by waiting through shutdown, redeeming whatever you have worth in ETH, and then exiting that way, and doing whatever you want. If you want DAI, after that you could immediately sell the ETH that you receive, or and you could do all of this through the migration portal. So migrate.makerdao.com is going to have a UI in place for CDP owners and Psi holders, so that they're going to be able to redeem collateral after the shutdown. And if you want like a bit of a walkthrough and explanation, I linked the thread here, so definitely feel free to check it out. Yeah, exciting. So yeah, MIPS are ratified. So the first governance cycle is set to begin on May 4th, which is yesterday, first Monday of the month. And actually, if you kind of take a look at what the governance cycle looks like. Yeah, we already, geez, I was trying to zoom out. We already covered this a couple weeks ago. If you're interested in watching the recording, I had Charles St. Louis on it, and he kind of went through what a typical governance cycle looks like. But this is the first one, and it's officially started yesterday. So I really just wanted to show you guys this before I moved on, because it's like a simplified visualization of what the governance cycle looks like. But basically, the very beginning of the cycle, any new MIPS, sub proposals, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, sure. Give me 1 sec. Sorry, was asked to post the doc again. Yeah, there you go, Akash. So, so the first week, there's some formal submissions and proposal submissions of MIPS. Or sorry, MIPS are formally submitted. They're approved by the governance facilitator. Then in the second week, they go to an inclusion poll, an inclusion review. They kind of go through this the cycle. Then there's a governance poll review, then an executive vote. Finally, if all passes with whatever MIPS are being proposed, and then they're accepted or rejected, and all of this kind of good stuff happens. So it's really nice to be on a set schedule. I think it's going to make things a lot more efficient on the governance side of things. I hope. But yeah, and then also we have the first MIP, the first new MIP sub proposal, which is, I believe, being submitted within this first week time frame. It's MIP 0 sub proposal 12-SP2. Oh no, it's component 12. Yeah, MIP 0 component 12 sub proposal 2. So this is for core personnel onboarding. And if you guys remember, last week, or actually the week before, Rich Brown, who's the current governance facilitator, proposed that it's time for a second governance facilitator, one from the community, and he nominated Long for Wisdom. And later on in the week, Long for Wisdom posted his reply, saying, in short, "Yes, I accept, but there's a ton of stuff that needs to be thought about, and caveats." Basically, so Long for Wisdom put together this sub proposal, basically for the purpose of onboarding himself as the second governance facilitator. and highly recommend you check it out because it's a cool first example of one of these. Right, cool. So moving forward, next piece I want to cover is actually MakerMan's liquidation report. So this is related to the zero bid auctions and all of the events that happened around March 12th. So this basically analyzed all of the ETH-A vault type collateral auctions from the very first one until 4865. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe 4865 was something like a couple weeks or a week after the events of March 12th. So there's a really cool kind of bucketing uh, of auctions as actually, so I don't mess it up. Let me just jump into his thing and tell you guys. But he has like a really great analysis of like the Black Thursday, pre-Black Thursday, Black Thursday, pre-auction governance change, and then post-auction governance change. And it's really cool because it doesn't just dive into zero bids; it actually dives into liquidations in general. And MakerMan pulls out a couple of really interesting insights. So I made a few points that I thought it would be important to mention here. So a core tenet of the report was that if it's decided that the auction process failed, a decision can be made about how much collateral a normally functioning system under severe pressure would return to affected vault owners, after which a full compensation analysis is made. So like if and actually, do I mention it here? Maybe not, but basically if on the whole you expect to receive 20% of collateral during healthy times and maybe 12% of collateral, 13% of collateral during like very hectic lack of liquidity, lots of liquidation times, then under normal circumstances, the idea is, you know, the fair number to reimburse people would be that 15% or 11%, because it was a crisis moment where the system wasn't functioning optimally, right? But in general, this liquidation report was very much kind of like an overall report and didn't dive into any specific zero bid victims or anything like that. But it does cover that segment. So, and MakerMan is here, so after I'm done, I'll happily throw him the mic if you guys have any questions about it or anything like that. So one interesting finding I thought he had in the report is that the collateral returned to vaults pre-Black Thursday versus post AGC. What's AGC again? uh, yeah, auction governance change. So that's the change for the lot size and the auction duration. Wait, where am I? Yeah. Is down 80%. So the collateral returned is down 80%, which is due to poor auction performance with larger lot sizes. So the lot size increased from, I think, 50 ETH to 500 ETH. And he showed in his report here just what that meant for the tab efficiency. And I thought that was super interesting. Yeah, here it's like not catching that full 13%. But either way, I'm not gonna dive into it too deeply myself here. But regardless, a couple of the conclusions that were reached from the report is that during Black Thursday, when additional keepers came up, the amount of collateral returned to vaults was at on average at best 10 to 11%. And this indicates a rough performance measure one could achieve during heavy liquidation periods. And then in the post period, there's a significant change in auction performance relative to before Black Thursday. Number increases approximately 200%, and the average lot size increased by 500%. However, the total, the collateral return is still down from 17.8% to 3.5%, indicating poor auction performance even with more bidders due to the large lot sizes. So thought that was super interesting. And if anybody has questions, feel free to jump in and ask. But otherwise, MakerMan, if you want to add anything to this, definitely feel free. And if not, I could plow ahead and get through the rest of the agenda. But yeah, all right, cool. So it sounds like everybody's pretty content here. So cool. yeah, really, really, really great work done by MakerMan. So I'm sure I and a ton of the people in the community appreciate this. Totally, totally great. Especially this additional insight of the larger lot sizes being inefficient. But cool. All right, no doubt. In other news, there are a ton of collateral apps that have been pouring in since the beginning of the month. And as a result, and I listed a bunch of them here if you guys would like to click and explore them. And also, if you'd want to click and explore them, you could bookmark this page, which Long for Wisdom put together a couple of days ago, or last week rather. And it's a collateral status index. So he lists all of the collateral onboarding applications, and even in the comments, kind of is in the process of making a more a more I guess specced out way of like following the status of each of these. So yeah, we've seen things like Phantom. We saw a couple of things from CF Drop is from the Centrifuge guys. PC Drop is also from the Centrifuge Tinlake guys. We saw the Uniswap DAI V1 liquidity pool token, Mana, TBTC, of course. Yeah, a ton of great great things to look into and consider. So yeah, that's about it for collateral apps. And then the last thing in the TLDR for governance I wanted to mention is that Derek Flossman mentioned in general chat, and I actually can't find it. I'm totally kind of just trusting that this is true, but that ranked choice voting will be available by mid next week. And if you guys don't remember, I believe it was about a month ago now, Maker voters voted in a governance poll about implementing ranked choice voting for stability fee changes. I'm not sure if it was just for stability fee changes, but in general, whenever there's more than a yes and no, a ranked choice, I think that's right, there, a ranked choice voting scheme would be there. And that would allow people to basically have communicate the information of their second, third, fourth choice preferences, which gives governance a lot more flexibility and a lot more understanding about the sentiment of the MKR voters. So overall, a positive change. And it's going to be around probably in time for governance polls on May 18th. And that's just considering, let's say, ranked choice voting comes out this time next week on the 12th and 13th. Governance polls come out every Monday. So I assume if they're not making it for next Monday, it would be for the 18th. Right. All right. So this week there is no executive vote until Friday, and Friday's executive vote will be informed by the current governance polls that are running. And the current governance polls that are running are only three. So that there's the USDC stability fee adjustment, ranging from 0 to 4.5%. The DAI stability fee adjustment, which is just the ETH A and BAT A vault types bundled together. They have the same risk parameters, so Maker Governance has been adjusting them in tandem. That too is set to you could vote on a range between 0 and 4.5%. And then the last one is the WBTCA stability fee adjustment, which is the new WBTC vault type. So that also 0 to 4%, and it's currently sitting at 1%. So that's the money maker right there for this week. Right, yeah. So super simple, not too much for MKR voters to vote on this week, though there is a ton of stuff in the forums that people are discussing and mulling over for the near future. Summary of Thursday's risk and governance call will be out, though last week's, the week before, did come out. So you could always find these either on the community development portal or in the forum itself. If you go to, like, for example, the governance tab, you could find all the agenda and discussions, and I typically post the summaries down here below. So you could definitely check that out if they are not uploaded to GitHub yet. And another thing, yeah, if if you want a good place to get kind of a few threads that are relevant to current times, Governance at a Glance is a really good resource. The only thing I wanted to highlight from Governance at a Glance this week was the signal request thread for adjusting the WBTC debt ceiling. So WBTC was launched with a 10 million DAI debt ceiling, and many in the community expressed that this was too high, citing the risks of the custodial risks of WBTC and in general, just expressing a risk-averse sentiment. And so there's a signal request thread in the forums, and I think currently, well, let's just. I think currently 3 mil is winning. I don't want to vote because I'm not logged in, but I believe 3 mil is winning if I'm not mistaken. But I should actually, I could do this. I have another browser open in another window. I could quickly tell you guys what's winning. But yeah, so 3 mil is winning with about 45% of the vote. No Change is in second place with about 30% of the vote. And then 5 mil has 20% and 15 mil has 7%. So 7% of people think it should be higher, while everybody else thinks it should either not change or go lower. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, no, never mind. I thought this was multiple. You could like choose multiple choices, but no, you can't. It's just one choice. Is it? Yeah, it's just one choice. All right. So yeah, that's about it for the WBTC signal request. So moving forward, partnerships, integrations, grants. We saw yet another mobile wallet announce native support for vaults and DSR, which is pretty cool. Yeah, not too much in the world of partnerships, integrations, grants. From the foundation, we put out a couple of really cool things actually this week. So the Maker Foundation formed a new board of directors, and currently consists of 4 people. Rune Christensen, who is of course the co-founder of MakerDAO and current CEO of the foundation. Stephen Becker, who's the COO and president of the foundation. And then here are the 2 new names that are part of the fold now. Tonya M. Evans, who's the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs and Professor of Law at the University of New Hampshire, Franklin Pierce School of Law. She directs the school's blockchain, cryptocurrency, and law online professional certificate program. And she has a passion for financial inclusion through digital assets. And so she is a totally natural complement to Maker's vision and a great person to have on the board for the foundation. And then the second person is Shefali Roy, who is the COO and Chief Compliance Officer of TrueLayer. She has a wealth of experience in compliance and regulatory affairs within the financial services industry. She previously oversaw Apple's regional compliance in Europe, Middle East, and India, and Africa, and later joined Stripe as MLRO and Chief Compliance Officer for Europe. And of course, her experience will help make her navigate the ever-evolving regulatory landscape for crypto, which is a scary, scary place for many, but a hopeful place for all of us, hopefully. Hope. But either way, really, really great to see this. Of course, this is the board of directors for the foundation. They don't have any special like authority or control over the protocol. The protocol is totally run by MKR voters. So just wanted to point that out as a reminder. All right, cool. Oh yeah, and the board is currently searching for a third independent director who has not previously been at the foundation. If you're interested in another kind of wrap up of what's been going on over the last month, Making Maker April 2020 is out. Definitely suggest you check it out. And also we released a blog post on how and why to self-integrate DAI into decentralized apps. This is mainly for integrations partners that might be a bit smaller, people with pet projects in the crypto space, et cetera, and it kind of gets into the meta of why DAI makes sense for you to use in your dApp, and also points you towards the resources that you might need to do so. All right, moving forward, highlights from the community. We saw a few cool things. So DeFi Dad put out a DAI cost averaging app, which is a super simple app. I really love it, how simple it is. But you just specify how much DAI you want to spend. You choose ETH to buy, and then you basically set it up however you want, once an hour, once a day, once a week, once a month. You unlock the DAI in the smart contract, so it's able to actually do the purchases, and then you just click start, and this thing just runs on a solid schedule, automatically dollar cost averaging you into ETH using DAI. So yeah, super like novel idea, and probably good for a lot of people in the space who aren't, like day traders or financial professionals or anything like that, who are just like retail investors. Dollar cost averaging is a pretty good technique from a risk management perspective. Support for WBTC and MakerDAO is now live at DeFiSaver.com. And this is actually at the same time they're celebrating their 1-year anniversary. So big congrats to DeFi Saver. 1 whole year. And then another thing I saw, I actually don't know who made this site, but yet another Maker Analytics site. So it has stuff like the stability fee, the DAI savings rate, the supply, collateral prices, and if whoever built this is continuing to build it, that font's got to change, or that color's got to change. But either way, yet another community built dashboard, which is super cool because I remember a couple of years ago there were no dashboards like this. I think there was just MKR.tools, who that was made by Mike McDonald. But nowadays we have a half a dozen analytics dashboards, which is really exciting. It's exactly what I like to see. All right, now coming towards the end of the agenda, some notable threads. Kurt came out with a super succinct and really well written explanation of the target rate feedback mechanism. So the TRFM is not a part of the Maker protocol right now, but was a huge idea that was part of the original design and has been part of the conversation around the Maker protocol for many years. And it's kind of like this thing that's a little bit hard to wrap your head around if you don't want to really read and sit and think about what its place is in the protocol and what it produces and what the trade-offs are for having this kind of mechanism. But regardless, Kurt put together a really cool intro to it, so highly recommend reading it. And then Nick Kunkel, who is the head of the Oracle team, he posted the collateral onboarding methodology from the perspective of the Oracle team. So he did this basically to inform the community what goes into collateral onboarding from the part of the Oracle team. So that's everything from like data integrity, so like making data integrity, reliability, resiliency, sensitivity of the data, transparency. Yeah, check out that thread. It has a ton of food for thought. So I still have to actually read it myself. So that's why I'm a little bit rusty in explaining it. Moving forward, Brian McMichael put up a really interesting comment about the USDC protocol risk as a result. I think as a result of the USDC stability fee dropping to 0%. Brian posted this bit of text, and what it basically says is, the stability fee being 0% is essentially the protocol subsidizing the USDC risk. So it's like very unfavorable for MKR voters to have a 0% stability fee. And it kind of he just outlined some of his concerns. And so there's a really interesting conversation going on in here about USDC. So another interesting thread that I threw on here is who was this? I think it was I forget how to. Yeah, Mustafa. Yeah, Mustafa. So Mustafa posted an idea to significantly lower centralized stablecoin risks as collateral while scaling DAI. And basically, his idea had something to do with having like a swap line for DAI to USDC and for other stablecoins, and for us basically to just hold those stablecoins on our balance sheet, not as like collateral, somebody else's collateral, but just as kind of like the surplus buffer, but something else. Yeah, this is an interesting idea. Definitely worth iterating and thinking about a bit. And then the last notable thread I put on here is this discussion about changing the stability fee voting structure. So right now, like we have like this weird thing where ETH A and BAT A are bundled. The USDC stability fee is on its own. The WBTC stability fee is on its own. And eventually, as we start adding a lot of collateral, that's a lot of votes that it's not exactly a scalable solution. So this is the beginning of the conversation of what might make sense, and it's this idea of this stability fee, the DAI stability fee vote, this bundled vote, becoming a base rate vote that applies to all vaults, and then the DSR spread will be based on the base rate. So if it's like the base rate is 1% and the spread is 0, then the DSR would be 1%, right? But then all of the actual like vault types get a vault fee, and the idea is that the base fee and the vault fee would basically be like the risk premium, but he's calling it a vault fee just to make it easier for people. And the idea is, the risk of loss on an ETH vault versus a BAT vault versus a WBTC vault or anything vault, they're all different, and they command different risk premiums, so different rates. And so this kind of construction of a base rate plus a premium would make a lot of sense. And he even makes the argument that the base rate can be negative to allow for MKR subsidization of the peg support, which is technically what we're doing now. So yeah, really, really interesting start to the discussion. So thank you to Sam for starting it. Some videos, as Peter had mentioned in the very beginning of the call, there was a really good DeFi discussion panel that happened earlier this week, and Lenka posted links to some of those recorded presentations. And actually, this is a really good time for me to hop in. So we used to have well, actually, we still do have a meetup grants program here at the Maker Foundation, and the purpose was basically to get more meetups going on, more education going on, give people less of an obstacle to go over if they want to organize like these kinds of events. But right now, we're actually doing grants for virtual meetups, and the thing that we're trying to emphasize and trying to kind of encourage is really interesting presentations and really kind of novel and innovative ways of presenting things to groups of people online. So if you are interested in hosting a virtual meetup, we at the foundation have basically a program that can help you get a grant for some honorarium to give you kind of a nice little incentive to produce a really cool resource. And so if you're interested in that, I could post the link here in the chat, and all of the info can be found there. And also you could message me if you have any specific questions that you can't find an answer to. So yeah, that's about it for the agenda. I have a couple of special asks and reminders. So there is a survey for the Community Development Portal user research. If you are a user of the Community Development Portal, or if you're not, highly suggest you check it out and you fill out this quick survey. It's only 2 questions. I would, I and the rest of the ComDev team would really appreciate it. And then likewise, a second survey that's being done by the team at Abridged. Their survey is focused more towards DAO operations for Maker governance. So highly highly appreciate it if anybody here can spend 5-10 minutes and do these surveys. They're incredibly useful for generating ideas, for increasing quality of user experience, and all of that. So these surveys are worth their weight in gold. And then the last thing is just that tomorrow, Wednesday, there's going to be a collateral onboarding focused community call that's organized by members of the community. It's going to be at 10:30 a.m. PST, 17:30 UTC. What is that? That's an EST. Sorry, I'm like always trying to think of things in terms of my own timeline. But yeah, so never mind. Why is my internet being slow? Jeez. All right, cool. 13:30 EDT. Yeah, 1:30 Eastern time. Yeah, so I'm in New York, so I'm thinking in Eastern time. Yeah, so 1:30, basically. Yeah, like an hour from now, tomorrow. Yes. Yeah, right on. And so with that, that's the end of the agenda. I could post it here again if you guys are interested in going back and digging through any of the links. Otherwise, we have about 20 minutes left in the call. I'm happy to end it a bit early today. But if anybody has comments or things they'd like to cover, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I had a general comment. I don't know if you're agreeable to this or not, but
Totally.
obviously auctions are a big issue. And I was thinking, there's systems out there that can save people the 13% penalty fee, like DeFi
Like
Saver.
DeFi Saver, yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So, but I don't think the community knows about DeFi Saver or how to use it. And there are probably other tools out there like that. It would be nice to have a community call where, like, a demo is done of those tools and the potential risks of those tools also, so that everyone is more knowledgeable about the tools that might exist there to save themselves from that 13% penalty fee if they are a vault owner.
So any risk mitigation tools for vaults? I'm gonna try to put together a list of all of them.
But
I
I
think
mean,
there's like 2 or 3.
risks with those tools themselves, right? Like,
Yeah.
they could be centralized. You don't know what the code is, so
Exactly. Yeah.
all of that should be listed out also.
Nice. All right, I'm gonna do some homework there and see if I could organize a community call, even with like potentially like 2 or 3 different guests on the same call, and we could like have like
Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
we could have like a war, we could have like a face off, like a challenge, whose vault management tool is better. No, that would be really cool. Thanks, Akash. I'll definitely try to make that happen. Right on. Does Instadap do like vault? Either way. So thank you guys for coming on the call. I'm gonna hit the record button so that the YouTube recording isn't super boring towards the tail end. But appreciate you guys coming on, and hope this was informative. See you next week.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.